It is the year 1863, and London is lost in the gloom of an industrial age, whose engines hum with progress, yet whose people often feel anchored in despair. The Victorian era is in full swing. Gaslit streets glimmer weakly against the soot-black sky, and in Kensington's opulent homes reside those who benefit from empire, while in poorer quarters, the burden of weight, illness, and social stigma falls hardest. Among the working and middle classes, the word corpulence was whispered with shame. But William Banting, a 65-year-old retired undertaker, felt that shame not as a whisper but as a suffocating roar. Standing barely 5 feet 5 inches tall, yet weighing more than 200 pounds, BMI over 33. His daily life had become a trial of physical burden and bitter self-consciousness. He confided only with a tinge of gallows humor that he had to descend stairs backward, puffed and blowed with every step, feeling entirely out of place in his own body. For decades, he pursued every remedy of the age in vain. Bath cures, fasting, exercise, fads, none worked. His hearing faded, his sight dulled. He felt trapped in a body betraying him from within. It was in 1862, amid this despair, that he encountered Dr. William Harvey, an ear specialist with knowledge gleaned in Paris. Dr. Harvey, knowing of Bernard's physiological insights, proposed a radical idea: reduce sugar and starch intake drastically and see if the liver responds. Banting tried this bizarre-sounding plan, and, remarkably, within a year, he had shed nearly 46 pounds and called himself cured of his insidious enemy. Convinced that what had saved him could save others, Banting transformed from a man plagued by corpulence to a messenger of hope. In 1863, he self-published a short but powerful pamphlet titled Letter on Corpulence, addressed to the public an open personal account of his experience, meant not to profit but to help. The first editions were given away. Later ones were sold at modest cost. He donated every penny of profit to charitable causes, such as helping working-class folk who couldn't afford recovery after illness. To his surprise and quiet pride, the pamphlet resonated. Britain alone saw tens of thousands of copies distributed. Translations flowed to France, Germany, and beyond. To Bant entered the lexicon, becoming synonymous with dieting itself. Even in Sweden, banta became the verb for to diet. For a time, his name was as well known as any physician's. Yet the reaction was mixed. Medical journals scoffed after all. Banting was an undertaker, not a doctor. Critics claimed the diet was unscientific, perhaps dangerous. Some even suggested Banting's own diet had killed him. Old caricatures and rhymes mocked the overweight undertaker willing to starve for health. But the public and those he helped did not care. What mattered was results. His letter had become a phenomenon, not out of academic merit, but through honest testimony that spanned classes and crossed continents. So today, as we prepare to read Banting's message again, we must summon the world of 1863, a world where a solitary man, under the weight of his own body and the weight of social scorn, found a solution seemingly too simple to believe, and yet life-changing. A world where pamphlets, not medical tracts, carried the most transformative ideas to the public mind, and a world where a funeral director dared to write not an epitaph, but a prescription for vitality, dignity, and hope. In this episode of Letters That Never Reached, we begin with this letter, a simple, heartfelt plea. We will read it verbatim as Banting delivered it to the public. Then we'll explore its reception, its critics, its cultural trajectory. Finally, we'll ask, what does Banting's sincerity say to us today, in our era of diet cults, wellness gurus, and conflicting nutrition advice?
To the public, it is with no small degree of reluctance that I, a private individual, venture to address the public on a subject so personal as my own health. Yet, I am impelled by a sense of duty to share the discovery that has restored me to vitality. For years, I suffered under the burden of corpulence, unable to stoop to tie my shoe without pain, nor to perform the ordinary offices of life without distress. My condition was a source of misery, and I had resigned myself to it as an inevitable affliction. It was by chance, or perhaps providence, that I was advised to abandon the consumption of bread, sugar, and other starchy foods. The result was astonishing. Within 38 weeks, I lost 35 pounds, and my health was restored to a degree I had not known for decades. I write this not to boast, but to offer hope to those who, like me, have suffered under the weight of their own frame. The diet I propose is simple. 4 meals a day, consisting of meats, greens, fruits, and dry wine, with an abstinence from bread, potatoes, and sweets. This regimen, which I have followed with strict adherence, has not only alleviated my corpulence, but has given me a renewed vigor for life. I am no physician, yet I believe this discovery may benefit thousands if only they will heed it. The public may wonder why I, a man of no scientific pretension, should presume to offer such advice. My answer is this: I have experienced a transformation myself, and I cannot in good conscience withhold it from others. The medical profession, with its complexities and disputes, has not yet offered a solution to corpulence that is both effective and accessible. I offer mine not as a cure-all, but as a practical remedy born of experience. I invite scrutiny, discussion, and even skepticism, for it is through such discourse that truth is refined. My only request is that those who try this method do so with patience and fidelity, for the results, though gradual, are certain. Yours, in earnest, William Banting.
After the publication of Letter on Corpulence in 1863, William Banting's life entered an entirely new chapter. Once burdened by physical limitations and constant discomfort, he now found himself in possession of renewed health and unexpectedly public fame. He became a recognizable figure on the streets of London. Newspapers printed articles about him, and curious strangers would approach to ask for advice, or simply to meet the man who had achieved what so many struggled with: long-term weight loss. Despite this sudden notoriety, Banting never presented himself as a scientific authority or a medical expert. He was careful to repeat, time and again, that his account was simply the story of his own experience, and that each person should seek medical guidance before attempting similar changes. Still, his words struck such a deep chord with the public that the term banting entered everyday speech, becoming a verb in the English language, to bant, meaning to follow a low-carbohydrate diet. This linguistic legacy would last for decades, a testament to how thoroughly his pamphlet had embedded itself into public consciousness. In his later years, Banting maintained his new lifestyle with remarkable discipline. He remained loyal to the low-carbohydrate principles he had described, and accounts suggest that his weight stayed steady and within a healthy range until his death in March 1878, at the age of 81. This consistency was extraordinary in an era, and indeed, even today, when weight loss often proves to be temporary. Yet Banting's influence extended far beyond his own life. His letter on corpulence ignited debates about diet and nutrition that would continue well into the modern era. While the science of nutrition would later develop far more nuanced and evidence-based frameworks, Banting's essential argument that sharply reducing certain carbohydrates could help control weight would be revived repeatedly under new names and in new forms, from the Atkins diet to the ketogenic approach. His legacy, however, is not found merely in the details of his dietary recommendations, but in the cultural shift his letter helped spark. Banting was among the first ordinary individuals to publish an open personal testimony about his health struggles and solutions at a time when such disclosures were considered socially inappropriate or even shameful. In doing so, he not only shared a method, but also normalized the idea that individuals could take active, personal responsibility for their own health and share their journeys publicly. Today, when we examine the history of dieting culture, Banting's name endures not simply as that of a man who lost weight, but as a figure who opened a path for how society talks about, experiments with, and publicly engages in the pursuit of health. His story stands as a reminder that sometimes cultural revolutions begin not with grand political movements or sweeping scientific breakthroughs, but with one determined person, a willingness to share their truth, and the quiet persistence to follow it through.